Welcome to the Behind the Board on editing straight drums with elastic audio. So we're finally getting to work with a full drum track, a group of drums that were recorded at the same time. You can see here we have 7 tracks here going from kick all the way down to room. And when we edit them, we want to edit them as a group. So we do not pull each part away from each other. They were tracked at the same time. They need to stay uniform. So let's start by clicking kick up here, pressing shift and going all the way down to room and clicking that. Next we'll go over to our groups area. We'll hit our down arrow and we'll make a new group. We'll call the group drums because that's what it is. We'll leave it as an edit and mix group. It's okay that. Next thing we're going to do is open up our elastic audio by clicking this little guy over here and making it rhythmic, because we're working with drums and it's mostly rhythmic except for a few of them. Let's turn the drum group off so we could just click a few of them. Hold your command key while you do this. We're going to select the overhead left, overhead right, and the room mic. You can let go of your command key after you clicked that and it's no longer highlighted. Now you click it and it's the only one highlighted. So press shift, go down to room. Now hold your Alt Option key and your Shift key. Go to where it says Rhythmic, but to the left, this piece right here is where you want to be. The plugin selector. Click that and change it to polyphonic. Now they all should have changed to polyphonic, all the highlighted tracks. The reason we do that is many sounds are coming through the overheads and the room mic. They're not set to one instrument. They're not set to something mono like that. So let's go back to our drum group and change one more thing. Let's get out of samples and go to ticks. It's right down here, samples to ticks. Now that we have all of that fixed up, let's get into our warp mode so we can see what we're doing. In our waveform selector, go up to warp, and you can start to see where it is picking out the transients. You can see lines pretty much everywhere. So stay in group mode. You cannot do this without group mode on, otherwise it will move everything to wherever the transient is. So you might have right here the snare drum going to the right, but the bass drum staying right where it is. That's not what you want. We want to move everything together so this stays true to the sound that was captured. So we'll start by making the first mark and the last mark. So let's go to our first area and zoom in. Click our slip mode and just handle that first mark. And we can get the slip mode by pressing F2 and back to grid mode by pressing F4. We're going to start doing that so we can move a little quicker, because editing takes time. All right, so we have the area that we want. Let's go to event operations, and quantize. Bring that up. It says here our quantize grid is in 16th notes. We're only going to do just the first and last notes, so let's just change it to 8th notes to start out with. And let's also change the grid we're working in to 8th notes. All right, let's apply that first one. That's perfect. That pushed it right to the first beat. That's what we want. And let's apply that last one by going to the end of the song, zooming in, and doing the same thing. We're going to want it to be on this line right here. Highlight and apply. Perfect. Now we'll zoom back out. We'll zoom back in towards the beginning, and we'll take a listen to what we're working with here. All right, so we're mostly working with 8th notes. There was 1/16th note I heard in there, but an 8th note would be, since we're in 8th note grids, every one of them would fall on one of these 8th note grids. It's a good way to figure that out. And we'll see that as we get along in the song, one of them will not. It'll be on a 16th note grid, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. So let's start our way through the song. We'll take from bar 3 over here to bar 6 and see what we got. I'm going a little past bar 6, as you can see, in a little past 14 seconds. Then we're going to click apply, and let's listen to that back. fantastic. What we did find right away is here's our 16th note that we missed there. Let's zoom in there. Let's change our grid up here to 16th note and do this one by hand. We'll go to the hand tool, which is right up here, but it's also F8, which will get you there much quicker. So let's use the hand tool to fix this one snare drum right here. Click it, and then click and drag. Oh, we're not in grid mode yet. Grid mode is F4 real quick. So that's what happens when you drag in slip mode. You don't lock to a grid. So I did my best eyeball of where the grid was, but that's not close enough for us. So we'll go up to our grid mode, and here we go. We're locked in pretty good. So let's zoom back out and start listening to the rest of it. So this track isn't too far off. It's not a real mess. But we do need to fix up pretty much every track we do. We want it to be as tight as possible, keep it pretty human, but as tight as possible. So let's take a listen from here before we start fixing again. Make sure we're still working in eighth notes. We're still in eighth notes the whole way through there, so let's highlight. We can highlight in this grid mode right now, that's fine too. So we're highlighting from halfway through bar 6 to what looks to be right before bar 10 there, and applying. Let's take a listen to that. Should be all fixed up a little bit tighter. All right, fantastic. So let's keep it moving. We'll listen to the rest of it. There's not much left here, and then we'll edit that up. I heard it come off the click right here. You could even just zoom in there if you want. That's a bar 10, beat 2. You could see the snare drum's a little bit behind. We want that fixed, so we'll get this whole section. You could still select in grid mode. We're still in eighth notes. We'll just hit our eighth note. Apply and see what we got. And take a zoom in on that same area. See, now it's dead on. That's what we want. We want it to be real tight to the grid. Fantastic. So we have it all fixed up. It sounds great, but now what I want you to do is just go through on those bass drums, make sure they're real tight. Sometimes other transients get in the way of the bass drum and the bass drum doesn't lock in, like right here, right at the beginning. Perfect example. Zoom into your first beat, and let's give that a quick fix here. Click over to F8. You have your hand tool. Let's eliminate what's there. Give it a double click at the beginning here. We won't have to do this after this. And then pull that over to where it should be. All right, zoom out a bit, and let's go through this song and look if there are any more stray bass drum or snare drum hits. We want to keep those on rather than cymbals. Cymbals wash, so you don't really have to deal too much with that. The direct hit of that isn't as direct as these bass drums are. So to eliminate the marker, all I'm doing is using my hand tool and double clicking the marker. But we're looking pretty good as we go through here. All right, I get to bar 8, beat 1, and we have a problem. So I take my hand tool, I double click on it, and now my marker is gone. I make a new one by clicking and dragging over. Perfect. All right, now, say you made a mistake and you clicked over to the left a little bit when you did your double click to eliminate. This is what happens. It highlights everything. It gives you 2 points. Yeah, you don't want either of them, but it's an easy fix. You go to your selector tool, F7, and then switch yourself into slip mode, which is just F2, and grab those two fellas and press delete. And since we're in the warp setting, since we only see the warp, this will not delete any of the audio. It will only delete those markers. So let's go back into our grid mode and into our hand tool and grab the bass drum and fix them. Perfect. Let's see if there's any more. There's another one right here, measure 10, double click, grab and pull. It's happening a lot here. Measure 10, beat 3, double click, grab, pull. Measure 11, beat 1, double click, grab, and pull. All right, so we made our way through this song. It looks like this is a little hi-hat transient right here that we didn't get to begin with. You could get these, you could not get these. If you want to leave them as feel, I'm going to get them. And just so we have a completely clean piece, just grab it, move it over to the real close grid right there where it should be, and take a zoom out. So this is the work you did. You could listen back and make sure everything's on, but I'm going to get rid of our event operations window and show you how to save this. Now, before actually I show you how to save this, let me explain you a few ways to protect yourself before you go through this process. Because as you save this, it's going to ask you to commit to the work you did. And when you commit to the work you did, it prints all the work you did, and you can't go back to before you did this work. So I suggest after you make your drum group, you can make yourself a duplicate just by going to this down arrow here and going to duplicate and clicking it. Now, you don't want to do this now. You want to do this before you even brought anything into Elastic Audio. So if you're nervous about going into Elastic Audio, you might mess something up, do this, or do this anyway. It doesn't take up that much memory, and it's definitely going to save you a couple times, because you might get something wrong somewhere and have to redo it, and you want the take to be there for you to redo it on. You want that original take. You could also do a save as before you get started, just file, save as, and you could label it something like straight drums finished, something real simple like that. And then we can move down now to go ahead and make our commitment to the work we just did. Just change your tool now. I don't like being in the grabber at all times. So the selector is real simple, no matter where I press, and nothing happens unless I press another button like delete. So we're in our drum group, and we're going to take everything out of Elastic Audio and commit to this. So you see where I'm going. I'm going not to where it says polyphonic here, to where it says Elastic Audio Plugin Selector. Click on that. Go up to None to disable your Elastic Audio. Now it's going to ask you if you want to commit to this, and yes, you do want to commit to this. You do not want it to be in Elastic Audio mode for the entire recording, especially not in mixing. It sometimes causes errors. So I like to commit to this, and like I said, you can make your duplicate before this. You could do a save as before this, so you really do have what used to be there in case. But let's give this a commitment now and show you what happens. So all of our tracks go blank, but they start getting printed, and there they are. Those are the tracks that we fixed up. They should be dead onto the grids, as you can see. There's a snare drum hit that we fixed, and it's perfect. So that is how we do Elastic Audio on straight drums. We'll have more difficult ones. We'll have fills. We'll have different grid lines we'll have to put in there. But right now we did eighth notes. We did 16th notes. We've done quarter notes. And we'll do other feels as well. But this is a good start, and you'll be doing a lot of this to really tighten up your record. So go over this a few times if you can, and I'll see you guys on the next video.